So I said I was going to start a writing vlog, and here we are. Today is Halloween, which means it is October 31st, which also means that National Novel Writing Month starts tomorrow. So what better time to start a writing vlog than right now? My name is Mercedes Kopen, and I am the author of When the Portals Open, which is my debut fantasy novel. It just came out this past September, and I am already starting to work on book number 2, so I thought it would be fun to document the process. So that is pretty much what this channel is going to be about, is writing and all things to do with the writing process. And this is my first video in that series, and I've never done this before, so we are going to figure this all out together. I wanted to go ahead and make this first video as kind of an introduction and an icebreaker so that I get used to this form of content, because I am not used to making long form content. I also wanted to let you guys know what this channel was going to be. Over the next few weeks, I am going to kind of be doing the rough draft challenge mixed with the 90-day novel challenge, mixed with a couple of other different things that are going on right now. It is Halloween, so that means it's October 31st, which means there are a whole slew of challenges going on right now for writers. November is widely known as National Novel Writing Month, and there are a lot of different things going on for writers right now, and I'm going to go over a couple of the resources that I use. November has never really worked as a writing month for me, just because I feel like there's so much going on in November, and if you haven't ever made writing a daily thing for yourself and then you try to do it in a really busy month, it just kind of backfires. So now that I've actually been able to do that in a different month of the year, or a few different months of the year, then I feel like this November is going to be a lot different than the past. So essentially, I am going to be updating you guys probably weekly with my progress on book number 2. And the way that I'm going to be working on that is by doing a few different pieces from a few different challenges. My main goal for November is to make sure that I am working on my story every single day. The reason my main goal is not finishing my first draft or anything like that is because I am still in the outlining process. I was not able to use October as my prep month like a lot of people do, Preptober. So I still do have outlining and things that I need to be figuring out. I will be giving myself a word count goal. It's just going to work a little bit differently than going straight into having a completed first draft of a novel by the end of the month. So if I work on my story every single day, I will be very proud with the results that come from that. I know I will be. But again, I am going to be giving myself some word count goals as well. I feel like if I work in my story every single day of November, I should have all of my outline done and possibly my 0 draft and starting into my first draft of book number 2. I'm sure throughout these videos, we will be on the same page about what I call a 0 draft and first draft and things like that. But essentially my 0 draft is a glorified outline. So in my outline, I do have all my pieces put in there. But when I talk about my 0 draft, it's me taking my outline and adding in some dialogue and descriptions and a bunch of notes to myself about what is actually going on in that scene and what the characters are feeling in that scene. So it is a lot more detailed than a regular outline, but it's not necessarily a first draft because most of what's in that 0 draft is still written to myself, if that makes any sense. My 0 draft for When the Portals Open was around 14,000 words, I think. So I should be able to get the 0 draft of the second book done during November. And then diving into the first draft before the month is over would be awesome for me. I do have a tentative release timeline, but I will not be sharing that until a little bit farther in the process. But for those of you who are wondering where book number 2 is and when it's going to be coming out, just know that I do have a date in mind and I will share that as soon as I can. The way I was figuring out my word count goal for the next few weeks is the Rough Draft Challenge Planner by Sarah Cannon from Heart Breathings. I absolutely love using her Rough Draft planner for certain aspects, especially when it comes to figuring out what days I'm going to be writing and how to break down a realistic word count goal for whatever month I'm going to be working in. I am going to simplify this as much as humanly possible. So if any of you know me, you know that I am a planner. I keep a regular planner just for our lives, for events that are coming up, for the kids' sports and everything. This one actually goes all the way through December of 2026. And then I have over here is a journal where I keep up with writing stuff. So in here, I have notes about the entire series overview. I have notes about the places and the characters and things like that. And here is also where I am going to be keeping track of my November writing challenge. So on this calendar in my writing journal, I have the bare minimum of things that are going on in our lives in November, just so I can kind of remember what days I will be able to write and what days I know I won't be able to write. And that's kind of how you start, is you look at your calendar for the month and you try to figure out what days you know you'll absolutely not be able to write. Because if you just say, I am going to for sure write the same amount every single day of November, you may be setting yourself up for failure, especially with things like Thanksgiving in there. So what I did was I marked off 5 days that I know I won't be able to write for sure. If I am able to write on those days, it will just be a bonus and that'll be awesome. It's not like I'm going to tell myself I'm 100% not going to write these days, but if I put it down as a day and I am relying on having those words for the day and it doesn't happen, then I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm just going to go ahead and take those off. So one of the days is Thanksgiving, obviously. And then I have a day where I am going to be traveling out of town. I am doing a meet and greet a few hours away and I will be there for a few hours and then traveling back. So I realistically am probably not going to be writing that day. If I do, cool, but I'm not going to have it on there. And then we have group days with our homeschool community where we meet up and we are together almost all day. If again, if I get to write, awesome, but I am not going to put that pressure on myself to try and make sure I am for sure writing on those days. So those are the 5 days that I know for sure I'm not going to be writing. And then I want to give myself a little bit of buffer time. So there's one day where if my husband gets to go with me out of town to that event, we are going to go a day early. So I'm going to take that day off also. That's just going to give me one buffer day. And then I'm going to give myself one extra buffer day just in case anything comes up. So out of the 30 days of November, I am giving myself 23 of those days where I know I am going to be working in my story. The next thing that you do after figuring out how many writing days that you have in the month is you figure out how many words you want to set as a goal for yourself and figure out how many words per day that means you're going to have to be writing. So I am not going to dive super deep into the math or anything, but let's say I wanted to set a goal of 50,000 words for the month of November, which is the normal amount that people set for this month. I have 23 writing days with 50,000 words. That would mean I would have to write 2,174 words per day in the month of November for me to reach that 50,000 word goal. Now, after figuring out how many words, then you have to figure out, well, how am I realistically going to hit that many words a day? And the way that I write is I like to do 30-minute sprints. I don't do the Pomodoro method, so I actually do a full 30-minute timer. And I will sit down, write for 30 minutes, and then I will get up and I will go and do other things. most of the time I can only realistically do a 30-minute sprint per day. But if I am putting my head down and making sure I am writing and trying to hit a certain goal, then I will wake up earlier or work it into my day a little bit better for me to make sure I'm having more than one 30-minute sprint. Anyway, if I already have everything plotted and I know what I'm going to be working on, I can hit 700 to 800 words per 30-minute sprint is my average. But right now I am still working on plotting. So there is going to be a lot of time where I'm working on my story where I am just thinking and not getting as much onto the page. So I am going to say for right now, just to give myself some grace, that maybe around 500 words every 30 minutes would be a good average. And that means that if I want to write 2,100 words, that would mean I would have to write a little over 2 hours a day to make sure that I am hitting that goal. That would mean I would need 4 separate 30-minute sprints. And I can work those into my day whenever I find 30 minutes where I can go sit down and write. For those of you who don't know, I do homeschool my kids, so they are here 24/7. So finding my writing time, I have to be very intentional about making sure that I am either waking up early or setting the time aside for those sprints throughout the day. Since it is November and there are so many things going on, I will make 50,000 words my stretch goal. So if I hit that, that would be super awesome, but that isn't really like what I am going to be stressing myself out about. Again, my main goal is making sure I am working in my story every day. I was thinking about it, and I think setting a goal of 3 30-minute sprints per day is realistic. Some days I might be able to do an extra one, and some days I might not be able to do all 3. So I feel like it should work out pretty well. But if I do 3 sprints a day at an average of 500 words per sprint, then that's setting me up for 34,500 words in the month of November. Again, my zero draft of book 1 was about 14,000 words. So if you take into account that I'm going to be working in my outline and then doing a zero draft, we're going to probably be pretty well into that first draft by the end of November if this works out the way I'm hoping it does. So that is essentially how I am setting my goals for writing every single day in November. And that is what I'm going to be updating you guys on each week. I will let you know how the past week has been going. I will try to record myself before and after some of my sprints. Maybe sometimes during, you'll get to see my kids coming over here and talking to me, or my cat jumping up here, or whatever else. But it's life, and life happens, and it does not stop for us to try and write our books. We have to write around the chaos, and that is kind of what you're gonna see on this channel. The only reason that nothing crazy has happened in this video is because this is about the 500th time that I have tried to record it. But things will get easier. I will get more used to this, and I hope you guys stick around for this process. So yeah, I guess go ahead and like and follow along. Make sure to subscribe so that you get the update whenever I go ahead and post the video next week. Again, today is Halloween. Happy Halloween. The next video should be posted in about a week, and I guess I'll see you then. Bye.